What if I told you that one of the most brutal wars in modern history is rarely spoken about? A war where villages vanished overnight, where screams echoed through prison walls, where freedom came at the cost of unimaginable suffering. This is not just a story about war. This is a story about identity, about resistance, about a people who refuse to disappear. This is the story of Algeria. Long before colonization, before borders were drawn by foreign hands, Algeria was alive, a land shaped by ancient civilizations, home to Amazigh warriors, Arab scholars, desert traders, a place where culture, language, and identity flowed freely. For centuries, its people lived connected to the land, their traditions rooted deep in North African soil. But history has a pattern, and time again, powerful nations look at lands like this and see not people, but opportunity. In 1830, everything changed. France invaded Algeria, but this was not just conquest. It was something far more dangerous. It was erasure. French forces did not just take land. They took identity. Algerians were pushed off their own soil. Farms were handed to European settlers. Entire communities were displaced. Over time, a system was built, one where Europeans lived with rights and privilege, and Algerians lived as second-class citizens. They could not vote equally. They could not access the same opportunities. They could not live freely in their own homeland. Imagine waking up one day and realizing your country no longer belongs to you. Generations grew up under this system. Children were taught a foreign language, while their own was discouraged. Their history was rewritten. Their culture was suppressed. Some adapted, some resisted quietly, but everyone felt it. That constant reminder, you do not belong. And yet, beneath the surface, something was building, not just anger, but determination. May 8, 1945. The world celebrated the end of World War II. But in Algeria, a different story unfolded. In the city of Sétif, Algerians marched. They had fought for France in the war. They had sacrificed their lives. Now they wanted freedom. They carried flags. They demanded independence. And then, gunfire. French forces opened fire on the crowd. What followed was not control. It was massacre. Thousands were killed. Villages were burned. Families were wiped out. Bodies disappeared without record. France believed it had crushed resistance, but it had done the opposite. It ignited it. After Sétif, everything changed. Algerians realized something important. Freedom would never be given. It had to be taken. In 1954, a group formed, the National Liberation Front, the FLN. They were not powerful politicians. They were ordinary people, farmers, students, workers, people who made one decision: to fight. Guerrilla warfare began. Ambushes in the mountains, attacks in cities. The revolution had started. France responded with force. Thousands of troops were sent. Cities became battlefields. This was no longer control. It was domination. In Algiers, the war reached its most intense point. The Battle of Algiers. French forces used extreme methods: mass arrests, surveillance, and torture. Yes, torture. Men were taken from their homes. Many never returned. Families were left with silence instead of answers. But the FLN fought back. Bombs exploded in public places. Attacks spread fear across the city. Civilians were trapped in the middle. This was not a war with clear sides. This was survival against control. And ordinary people paid the highest price. Out of the chaos, leaders emerged. Ahmed Ben Bella, a revolutionary who would later become Algeria's first president. France Fanon, a thinker who explained the psychological damage of colonialism. And Jamila Bouhired, a woman who became a symbol of resistance. She was captured. She was tortured. But she never gave in. These were not just leaders. They were symbols of a people who refused to break. As the war continued, the cost became impossible to ignore. Over 1 million Algerians lost their lives. Millions were displaced. Entire communities were destroyed. Families were torn apart. And even among Algerians, there was division. Some had supported France. Others had fought against it. The scars ran deep. But still, the fight continued. In 1962, after years of war, Algeria was finally free. Independence was achieved. The streets filled with celebration. Flags waved high. People cried tears of joy. But beneath that joy was grief. Because freedom had been paid for. With blood, they tried to erase Algeria, its people, its culture, its identity. But they failed. Because no matter how powerful an empire becomes, it cannot destroy a people who refuse to disappear. Algeria's story is not just history. It is a lesson, a warning, and a reminder that freedom is never free. If this story moved you, subscribe for more untold stories of African and Black history. Because history forgotten is history lost.